Welcome back to the latest episode of the Key and Mang audio experience. I'm your host, Mang. As always, joined by my fellow co-host, Key. Key, what's good?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for calling.
Good. Today, we got another special one. We got Jeremiah Cordero, aka Movin With Jerry, on the pod. Jeremiah, what's good?
Not much, man. Just kind of soaking in this rain that we got up in Anchorage, Alaska. It's a
Hey,
little
I
chilly
feel it.
today too.
Hey, you never know what you're gonna get in Anchorage, Alaska, or in Alaska in general. So it's just
Definitely.
something you gotta get used to. But
Uh-huh.
this is gonna be a fun one because this is my trainer, my coach, who's getting me right now, and he just started his own personal training business, and we've been talking as we've been training, and I think it would be a good story to hear how you kind of built yourself up in the ranks here in Anchorage. So I'm really excited for where this conversation is going to go, and I just wanted to open up to you to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, right. So my name's Jeremiah Cordero, like Fairbanks said. And I kind of took the unorthodox way, and so I'm a personal trainer, obviously. And I kind of took the unorthodox way, an unorthodox route of a personal trainer. I started as a personal trainer at like a big box gym, a well-renowned gym in town in Anchorage, Alaska. And I was working there for about 7 months, and I kind of just got this like itch to start my own business and start my own operation. And if you listen to a lot of like podcasts, like fitness and health podcasts and personal training podcasts, so on and so forth, they'll tell you that you want to do at least like a couple of years at a big box gym before you think about maybe opening up your own operation. But I kind of wanted to go kind of against the grain. And I kind of wanted to just start my own thing right away and jump into it. And I felt like I was betting on myself and taking a pretty big risk just because there's so much that goes into starting your own operation. But yeah, I just kind of said, let's do it. Like jump into it, just go all in. And so I've been doing that for about 3 months now. Got a total of 12 clients right now, and it's been amazing. I love it, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Can you tell us about the ups and downs you experienced when leaving that big box gym and going off on your own?
Sure. I think I think the biggest up for me is just like being the flexibility, just being able to, create your own schedule. Well, I mean, I should say, yes, you do get to create your own schedule, but you still have to work with people and their flexibility, obviously. But you just get a lot more free time throughout the day, and it's like, I mean, it's self-explanatory. I mean, it's yours, like it's your baby. You get to do what you want with it. But I think the biggest downside is the security part of it, and like just not knowing, like you're at the mercy of these clients, and like you're not working for an established gym, you're working for yourself, and so that's pretty risky. um and then I guess like another advantage to it is being able to collect all of your earnings and stuff. Obviously you gotta, you pay rent for your studio and this and that, but the gym isn't taking like a commission of your sales or your packages or whatever you sell. So I guess like just being able to take everything that's yours and not having to spread it towards like the gym and so on and so forth.
You mentioned having like one of the downfalls being you're being having to find your own clients and make sure that they stick with the program. How do you go about finding your clients and making sure that they're a right fit for you, working with you? And
Yeah, so I usually take them through like a consultation process. And I mean, the consultation isn't very long, but it's pretty in depth. Like I try to like not only just figure out like what their goals are and like what they're seeking out of me as their trainer, but just to kind of get to know them. Like, what do they do in their free time? Like, what do they like? like what kind of training styles they like, or just honestly, even just like on a very like surface level, just like, what they like to do in their free time. It's like, what do they do for work? Just to get to know them on a personal level, because I feel like when you get to know your clients on a personal level, it kind of builds the foundation for a pretty strong relationship. And I'd say that's like half of it, doing personal training, is being able to, you obviously have to have a good relationship with your personal trainer, because if not, it's not going to work. So
How do you go about getting these clients? I know you live in Anchorage and it's like kind of in a smaller town, but do you use social media? Is it word of mouth? How do you go about acquiring clients?
it's a little bit of both, honestly. Living in a small town, word gets out really quick. And, even in the 3 months that I've had my business going, I mean, word has traveled so quick. I remember like a month ago, I was just in the grocery store, just rounding up some groceries. And this couple, probably like middle-aged, comes up to me. I'm at the self-checkout, and they come up to me and they're like, "Hey, are you that Moving with Jerry guy?" And I said, yeah, like, sure. I got kind of nervous just because like that was my first time ever being publicly recognized. Um, and they were just telling me, because sometimes I'll put up like workout videos and tutorials, or like I'm starting to get into like cooking videos. So, but the guy was like, "Yeah, my wife and I love your workout videos. She did like my TRX workout video that I've got posted on Instagram." And that was just like, it was very humbling, but at the same time, obviously it was super exciting. So that just kind of proves that like in a small town like Anchorage, word gets out really quick through social media, through word of mouth. Um, but I also feel like there's disadvantages working in a smaller town like Anchorage. Um, we were talking about the weather earlier, and I'd say like 9 months out of the year, we're either dealing with like pretty solid rain or snow, obviously. And so people are always layered up. And so like compared to like cities in like LA, Miami, places where, I mean, you're on the beach like 75% of the time, people don't necessarily care as much for their appearance here. And that's like, I mean, a lot of people get personal trainers to better themselves, like obviously mentally and emotionally. But I mean, I'd be remiss to say that people don't, hire a personal trainer for their physical appearance as well. Um, they don't really care about that as much here, just because like that's just not very big here in Anchorage. So it's kind of hard to like find people who are interested into it. So it's definitely it's definitely a process that you have to go through. And like, yeah, I'm getting better through experience. So I'd say that's like the biggest disadvantage.
I think that once you hone in on how to cater to those people who don't really care about the aesthetic part of it, I feel like that'll take your business to a whole nother level, because it's easy to
Yeah.
work with people who do it out of vanity or like the superficial reasons. It's harder to get people to buy in when that's not really what they're looking for. So if you could tap into that and then go online, it's like it's gonna be a game changer.
Yeah. And that's kind of like my mantra with my business is like preaching balance. You know, I feel like once you're at a place where you care more about like your mental well-being and your emotional well-being in terms of like health and fitness, I think you'll be a lot more at peace with yourself, and just like, you'll find that you'll enjoy just working out more. Just because if you're doing it just for the physical appearance aspect of it, I feel like it's way easier to get burnt out, and people just kind of like fall out of love with health and fitness. And health and fitness is so much more than just, appearance. So
Can you take it back to how you got started in the personal training journey? I know you were an athlete in high school and college and had talked about some of your injuries coming up, but can you kind of tell us about how you got into the personal training world and why you decided to go that route?
Yeah, so I'll take it back even like further than like high school and college. I'll take it back to when we first met back in like when your cousin Pindo and I were in elementary school. Um, I was pretty like I didn't have the greatest confidence in myself, and like I was pretty overweight as a younger kid, just like had a lot of baby fat on me and got picked on a lot. I mean, obviously, like I had a lot of friends, like a lot of people liked me, but I got picked on because I was pretty chunky. Um, and so like I always had this like mindset that I wanted to change that. And so I always loved sports. Like I remember, when us three would always hang out, we'd always talk about sports. Like that was like 95% of the things we used to talk about. Um, and so, but I wanted to do something about like getting into shape and this and that. So I started, doing basketball, I started doing football, baseball. I did all the sports. Um, and the main ones I really enjoyed were basketball and football. Um, and so right around like middle school, high school, I started to take basketball pretty seriously. Um, and so I started, playing for competitive leagues and doing like going on travel teams, etc. And then once I got to high school, I started taking it even more seriously, and I thought, hey, maybe this is something that I could turn into like playing college ball or and then I tried out for the football team, and it kind of just like reversed. Like basketball was kind of like on the back burner, and I just realized that like football was where like my heart did, like that's where my talent was most prevalent, was football. So I started taking football way more serious. And then I like noticed that, my body started to change. And that's probably a lot to deal with, just going through puberty and things of that nature. But I just started taking the weights a little more serious, just because in football, like we really honed in on weight training, resistance training, um, and things of that nature. Um, and then and then I had two best friends in high school who were just lifting weights just to lift weights. They just like thought it was fun. They'd go to the gym every day after school, and I thought maybe I should join them. So I went I went for the first time and I hated it. Like I didn't enjoy myself. I like the football, like lifting weights with the team, because it was like a camaraderie thing. But going to the gym like after school every day, I absolutely hated it for like the first year. I just didn't enjoy it. Um, but my friends were like, just stick with it. Just try to see if there's something that you like, and you'll figure out things that you do like and things that you don't like. I said, okay, I'll stick it out. I'll keep doing it. Um, and I think I like found that camaraderie with them, and being able to like work out with them every day, and kind of just built like almost like a little team together. And then I just like fell in love with it. And then I'm still playing football while I'm doing this. And so I was running my body into the ground, which is not suggested. You got to take your rest. But I was just enjoying it so much. Like I finally like found a passion for it. And so once I graduated high school, I went on to play college ball for a year at Valley City State University in North Dakota. And I tore my ACL. And I tried to come back, and I was playing afterwards, and I could just tell that I wasn't the same. A lot of guys recover and they come back even better. But I just like after playing on it a couple months afterwards, I just knew that I might have to just call it. And I had my fun with it, and I loved every single minute of football that I played. But it was just like that realization that I just needed to go elsewhere and find another avenue to go on. And so, my mother was a huge advocate of me doing like coaching, and she was like, why don't you get into personal training? I said, I don't know if I could like take that responsibility. Cause I mean, being a personal trainer, you have a pretty big responsibility and a pretty big weight on your shoulders, because you're not only changing people's lives physically, but like we talked about earlier, you're changing people's lives mentally and emotionally. And so I was kind of like skittish at first about it. And I wasn't, I was kind of iffy, and I didn't know if I wanted to do it or not. But so I just said, you know what, let me just try and get my certification. If not, if I don't use it, I don't use it, but I have it in my back pocket just in case. And I took the course. It took me like 3 or 4 months to take the course, passed the test and everything. And like I said, I worked at a big box gym here in town, and for about like 7 months. And I honestly, like, a huge reason why I wanted to go out on my own was to be able to build my own programs, and not have to like use the gym's programs for like group classes. And I kind of wanted to just like do absolutely everything on my own, not only for the sake of me taking all the credit, because that's not what I care about, um, but just being able to like represent my whole self. I felt like I was being kind of capped, like my potential was kind of limited. And so I just wanted to tap into my potential to see where it could go. Because I feel like my ceiling is like super high. And granted, like if you're working for a big box gym, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but like in the NBA, for like draft prospects, they say, oh, this guy has a high ceiling, but a low floor, or like a high floor. Being at a gym, you have like a high floor because you have that security and you're secure. But I just wanted to take a risk and try to see if I could achieve that high ceiling. So kind of related to like the NBA or like sports in general.
That's why I think when I came back for last winter, I think you had just like branched off to starting Moving with Jerry, or starting your own business.
Yep.
And I was in we went to hoop, and I just happened to see you because I've been seeing what you've been posting on Instagram. I was like, that's interesting. I haven't seen anybody doing that in Anchorage yet. And I knew I was coming back. So I was like, let me see what he's about, because I know I hadn't seen you that much since I left for grad school and all that. So I
Yeah.
was like, let me see what he's about, what he's about to do with this. And I was like, I remember I told you, I was like, when I come back, I'm trying to work with you because I want to see, like, I knew you were new, but I knew I could see the passion was there. And I thought if I told you what I was trying to work on, that you would help me get there. And so I was like,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna take a chance and see what it's about. And we just hit the ground running for like 2 months, and it's been a fun time.
Yeah,
I
man.
know you got you got your laps in, I got my laps in, but we're putting in work.
That's the thing, man, is like I want to be able to make it so people enjoy their experience with me. Like people have this like negative connotation towards health and fitness in general, but like personal trainers, like they instantly think that, your coach is gonna scream and yell at you and like make you do all this hard, like you got to be walking out of the gym like feeling like your legs are noodles. And that's like so far from the truth. Like I want to be able to shed light that like you can have fun while working out, and it can be something that you enjoy, and you don't always have to feel like you're like dog tired afterwards. Like it's at that, honestly, at that point, you're doing a disservice to yourself if you're always pushing your body to the absolute ground. And you should be able to walk out of your gym and be able to go do other things afterwards. And so when you push yourself too hard, it will not, it will make you burn out, and you will at some point just give up. Um, so I really just want to make it a fun experience with my clients, and I try my best to do that. Um, so, but I wanted to ask you guys a question. Do you guys see like similarities between personal training and physical therapy? Because I feel like there's so many similarities, like especially when I'm talking to you about it.
Go ahead, Key. I want to hear your perspective on this.
Okay. Definitely I see so many similarities. I think it overlaps a lot, especially when you get, so I work in like sports rehab. So initial stages of rehab, when you're working on like decreasing swelling and like range of motion, like that's a little different from personal training. But once you
Yeah.
get somebody to like past that stage and they're getting into like building strength and working on other like physiological capabilities, I think it overlaps so much. I think it's essentially the same thing. You just have to have the knowledge to coach somebody through it. And I think a personal trainer could definitely do that. So that's why a lot of times you see um, athletes switching off to like a strength coach or a personal trainer after they get to that point. Because a lot of times personal trainers are more equipped to do that than PTs, which I believe. So I see a lot of overlap. And I think some PTs don't like to admit it. And they kind of downplay personal trainers, like, oh, I, as a personal trainer, charging X amount per session when they're not a PT. Like, we do the same thing at the end of the day. It's just at
Yeah.
what stage are you at? So I think it's very similar. And that's how I run my business. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing because I feel like one thing I try to do also is, you know, especially when I'm training Fairmay, I try and like pick his brain and I try and like learn more. Like obviously, like you have to have basic knowledge of the human anatomy, like being a personal trainer. You if you don't, like you are very underqualified. Um, but I try and like gain more knowledge in terms of like injury and like prehab and stuff like that. Because I feel like as a personal trainer, if you can, you know, do like injury specific, if you can prescribe your patients with like injury specific, like warm-ups or like exercises or things that can like help somebody with like hip pain or like back pain, that can really separate you from the rest of the crowd. Like you can gain so much notoriety and just you'll definitely get more leads, especially like in a smaller town. Like if people know that you're able to like, if you're doing corrective exercise or if you specialize with injuries, that can take you to a whole nother level. So that's why I try and like really pick his brain every now and then. But what do you think, Fairman?
Very similar to what Keith said. I think also with just to add on to it, I think you have access to like the medical doctors and you can refer people to the places that they need to go a little easier, I think, as a PT versus a personal trainer. But in terms of qualities of like helping people with movement patterns and getting stronger and seeing fitness as a way to achieve their goals, whether it's to pick up their kid or to be able to push a certain amount of weight or whatever their goals are, I think very similar PTs and personal trainers. And that'd be the only couple of differences that Key mentioned, and then having the referral sources.
Yeah, gotcha. Gotcha.
I also think a lot of coaching, whether you're a physical therapist or a personal trainer, it comes down to knowing like angles and like biomechanics of things. So like knowing the anatomy could get you far. If you like somebody's having pain with certain positions, if you know how to make something more like knee dominant, hip dominant, you can do that without being a PT or like being a personal trainer. So as long as you have that knowledge, I think you can go pretty far. And then as a personal trainer, if you have that knowledge, you can become an easy referral for like a PT who doesn't have that knowledge, but they feel comfortable referring you clients to like return to sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Key, do you work for yourself or do you work at a physical therapy place or?
So I work for a physical therapy place, but I also have my own like hybrid services.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but mine isn't really with athletes. It's more so women looking to be empowered by like weightlifting.
Nice. That's awesome. That is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about disadvantages earlier. I think, you know, and this is kind of like a sensitive topic, but I feel like as a male personal trainer, it's a little, it's harder for sure because I feel like females have like a harder time trusting male personal trainers. And I've heard this like through clients and stuff. Just like building that trust factor with male personal trainers is a little tougher. I've had people come in, especially at the box gym that I used to work at, and they're like, I will not have a male personal trainer. Like, I want a female personal trainer. And, I understand that, just because like girls tend to like cling more towards girls, and, that's natural, but the trust factor in that kind of plays a huge part. And, I feel like us as male personal trainers, because personal training is, and, physical therapy is like this as well, and coaching in general. At some point, you're going to have to like show your clients how to do a movement, or show them where you're supposed to feel the like contraction and whatnot. And so you're going to have to touch your client at some point. But just like making sure that you build that trust factor with your clients is just so key. And I feel like just us as male personal trainers, we just need to do better, just like not taking advantage of that trust. And so I just noticed, like, throughout my journey, like, I've noticed that women just have a really hard time trusting male personal trainers. And so that's just like something for me, especially like building that relationship with them in the consultation process. That's just like a very, very big aspect of that as well that I care about. So, because if you build trust with your clients, your business is gonna skyrocket.
So using that specific example, how do you build trust with your female clients and making sure that they're comfortable with you and all the movements or things that you're asking them to do?
Yeah, just like making sure that, it's pretty like standard protocol. Like, if you're showing them something, you're like, hey, do you mind if I show you where you're supposed to feel this? Obviously, there's certain movements like a squat, or you don't want to be touching their butt, obviously. But like, if you're rowing, hey, can I show you where you're supposed to feel this? And then you point it out. And just like going through like standard protocol, and just not directly just going right at it, just like making sure that, your intent is to show them what the movement is supposed to be doing and where you're supposed to be feeling the movement, and not, for other reasons.
I definitely agree that a lot of women are like apprehensive about having male trainers. I mean, I personally wouldn't mind, but I can say the reverse though. I think that it's hard for women to be a coach of a male, because males are like, why are you telling me this? Like, who are you? And I think
Yeah,
some men have a different perspective when it comes to women in the gym. Like, they think women should be lifting colored weights only, or things like that. So I think it's hard to get trust as a woman, as a lady from a male client. So I
absolutely.
think
And
it goes both ways.
yeah, I want to stress that as well. It works both ways. It's not just like one side, or, but I definitely also notice that, with my male clients, they're pretty stubborn. Like, and you're their coach, and you try to show them something, and they're like, oh no, like, my way is the right way. And it's like, okay, well, you hired me for a reason. So your way is not the right way. So, it's just like this, that women are way more receptive to my coaching, and just like they take what I give them and they apply it like right away. And so that's honestly like, I love coaching women, because like I said, they're so receptive, and just being able to build that trust with them is just like very like relieving for me. And it's just like, I love being able to build that trust factor with people. So, but specifically with women as well, it's just a good feeling, just because they feel comfortable with you. So yeah, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, I think generally the ego is crazy in men. Like
Yeah,
it's
you
hard
would
to,
know, you
hey,
would
look,
know.
man. Hey, I know my place. I told you this on Thursday. I know my place. I know my place. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm bad at. And I'm ready to hear all the criticism and all the good things as well.
Yeah, like
But
you
I think,
killed me with the medicine ball the other week.
yeah, I told him, you got to get your weight up, cuz I told you.
Man. Oh, and then right after he
But
says, "Oh, he's trying to get like me."
hey, look, I'm a big guard, man. I'm a big body. big body, big body in a small package, but it's all good. It's all good.
Oh man.
But what I was gonna say, I think it's when you're used to doing something in a certain way for 5, 10, 15 years, and then you have someone telling you, oh, maybe you should consider it this way. It's hard to let your get your ego out the way and try it a different way because you're so used to getting that way. But like you said, there's a reason why you came and sought out extra help because what you're doing was not working.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to remind myself. I'm like, hey, like I came and sought him out. Like he's good at these barbell lifts and movements and stuff. And I'm used to a certain way of doing things. And that's why usually I'll ask you questions. I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we adding this rotation in? But that's just for me to like try and understand why you're prescribing this movement that way.
Yeah.
And so I'll make sure that I think if you're gonna pay take the time to invest in a trainer or a healthcare professional, you need to do your own due diligence to make sure that you're ready to invest in it, but also be ready to like learn and be a sponge and do what they're telling you to do. And then if you want to ask questions about why you're doing a certain thing or how does it relate to what your goals are, then that's a conversation you should be able to have with your trainer, with your health professional at all times. But
Yeah.
I think you got to get rid of your ego. I think that's harder for guys to do than females to do, girls to do, because that's just how we're programmed.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, man, is I feel like personal trainers also got to take their ego out of it too, because they, I've ran into some personal trainers who like they think they know everything under the sun, and they'll give their clients like the complete like wrong like program, or they're just giving them like random stuff, and it's like yes you want to be confident in yourself and like confident in what you're giving your clients, but at the same time you got to be making sure that like you're not pushing your clients too hard, or just because like I said earlier, everybody thinks that like when you work out you got to walk out of the gym feeling dog tired or else it wasn't a good workout. And you'd be surprised, like the majority of the trainers that I've seen in my experience, they'll run their clients into the ground. And it's like you're not sure, you're like giving them like a really hard workout, but you're not building that sustainability and longevity. And that's something, balance and also longevity is something that I like preach all the time, is that if you're hiring a trainer and you're trying to like build this lifestyle of health and fitness and you're just doing it for a temporary fix, you're just going to go back to where you were 6 months or a year ago. So it's all about like building that so it becomes like a lifetime thing for you. So just being able to like slowly like give your clients, different exercise programs and upping the intensity at a slow pace and not just like giving them like hard stuff right away. So I think personal trainers like ego kind of like feeds into that. So it works both ways for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I was gonna say that with like killing your client, not killing your client, I shouldn't say that, but beating your client to the ground on the first day, I feel like it makes them not want to come back. I remember I had one client and the first workout wasn't hard, but it was a lot of exercises. Like it's like one of those workouts where if you did it, you don't really feel tired in the moment, but you'll like feel it tomorrow, but it's not gonna prevent you from doing anything. And she's like, oh, this workout wasn't hard. And I was like, yeah, because you haven't been working out. So I'm not gonna give you something that is so challenging, but we're gonna build up to that. And I think clients expect you to like beat them to the ground the first day. But when you do that, they're likely like not gonna come back, or they're not gonna enjoy it, especially if they don't have an exercise background. So I think doing that works against trainers or coaches when you do that.
Oh yeah. It's hard to convince your clients that, if you're not pouring sweat, that you got a good workout. It's very hard because like I said, they're so in this mindset that, you have to push your body to its absolute limit or else you didn't get a good workout. It's just like, but it's because we as a society, we look at that as like the standard of like, that's how it should be done. And like, it's all about like how the media portrays like health and fitness, and like a lot of the influencers now on like TikTok and Instagram, and like it shows them like, pouring sweat, or like, screaming and yelling when they're like lifting weights and stuff. Like it's great, like don't get me wrong, but I feel like just like for the average person, kind of like skews their view on like what it should look like than what it actually does look like. So
Also, I think as PTs, at least me, when I first like started working, I definitely had like an ego or like a bias, and I was giving exercises or movements to clients or patients that I knew would be beneficial, but it was because not only I knew it was going to be beneficial, but it was something I liked doing. So like not everybody wants to freaking deadlift, but there's other ways to strengthen. So taking into account what the person wants and is actually going to be consistent with, as opposed to something is going to help them, but they're actually not going to enjoy it, but you're trying to give it to them because that's how you train.
yeah,
So taking ego out of it that way is important as well for PTs, coaches, all of that.
Yeah, and I've been on that side of it too, where like I have to kind of like take a step back and be like, okay, you're pushing this guy too hard, or you're pushing this girl too hard. Like you need to like lighten it up a little bit. Especially like in the beginning, not so much anymore, just because through my almost a year of experience, like I feel like I've gained that, like I'm comfortable enough with myself that I know like where to push my clients. But in the beginning, like, yeah, I totally, a couple times, or more, I mean, maybe more than a couple times, I was giving my clients like programs or exercises that were a little like too intense for them. But it's all, I mean, that's all a part of the learning process, right? I mean, and I think, taking that ego out of it requires you to just like make sure that it's okay to make mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes because nobody's a perfect product. So just being able to like tell yourself that you're going to make mistakes, but it's about how you respond and how you learn from those mistakes so that you don't make those mistakes again. So.
And I think another similarity between our two respective fields is that it's a long game. You're not going to have a quick fix in physical therapy. You're not going to have a quick fix in personal training. And being able to communicate that from jump, I think helps with trust. I think helps with buy-in. And if you can outline your plan of how you're going to progress things, how you're going to regress things, how you're going to work towards your goals, I think that helps with building trust. I think that helps with building buy-in. I think that helps lead to better outcomes because everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
And you're ready to adapt. And you can experiment with things in your plan, but once you as long as you're following towards their end goals, that's what's going to help you get to make with your decision making. But you can't be afraid to make mistakes. You have to learn to redefine your frameworks and reframe your biases to help you be a better clinician, trainer, whatever it may be. Like it's always a constant feedback loop, just trying to get better.
Yeah, man. It's funny that you mentioned that. I remember you telling me a couple times, like after our sessions, like trust yourself and like trust your knowledge, and like know that you're doing the work, and like what you're doing. Sometimes I can get in this mindset, and I think everybody goes through this, where you feel like you're not doing enough for like your business or your job or whatever it is that you're doing. Some people can just like feel like they're not doing enough. And like I know I remember you checking me a couple times, like get out of your head, like you're doing just fine, and just like trust your work. You'll be fine.
So always trust your work. I think we were talking about this yesterday. Yesterday? We were talking about I just lost it. We were talking about like how we've been exposed to, like we think we're not doing too much, but because we've been exposed to people who are like high achievers, that we're doing more than like what the average person will do. So we're like extra hard on ourselves. I think the same principle applies here. You've been exposed to people who are doing big things, so you think you're not doing enough, but you're doing way more than what the average individual is going to do. So
there's no medium, man. It's either you feel like you're not doing enough, or you feel like you're doing way too much. So there's never like a happy medium.
Quick question for you. What would you
Yeah.
say 2 to 3 qualities that you think every good coach or every trainer should have?
Ooh, so many. Um, Accountability, first and foremost, not only for your client, but for yourself. Being able to hold yourself accountable. Compassion, being able to make sure that, you know, you're hearing, like if your client is like feeling not the greatest like that day, or, you know, just being able to have that compassion and just like being able to listen to them and listen to their body. And 3, fun, like have fun with your clients. Cause like I said earlier, if you're not having fun, what's the point of it? Like you're doing a disservice to yourself if you're not having fun. We only live this life once, like we got to have fun with it. So just being able to enjoy running your body into the ground.
I have a question actually.
Yeah, what's up?
Speaking of fun, I feel like I work with a lot of women, so and I know like the stigmas around women in the gym and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of ladies fall prey to that. Like if you lift, you're gonna get bulky or look masculine, look like a man. How do you educate your clients who feel that way, if you have any of them that feel that way?
Right, honestly, Key, right now it's kind of hard because a lot of clients or like potential leads, they want to see results. They want to see like testimonials. And, you know, they want to see like, okay, like what have you done for other people so that I know that what you're telling me is right. So I mean it's pretty simple. Like I try and just like trust my, you know, my judgment, trust my work, and just like try to educate them in terms of like stuff that I hear on like other podcasts, reading articles, stuff like that. But just like it's funny that you bring that up because I'd say like 90% of the female clients that I've had or have at the moment in our consultation process, telling them that resistance training is the best way for you to build muscle, and they never believe me. They just like they're just like, oh, I'm gonna get like super bulky and I don't want that. And it's very hard to convince them. So I think just being able to get them in and just getting them consistent and just getting them to understand, like after a few months, they'll start to know and like feel different. You won't really see physical results in like the first few months, but what you will see is like the mental aspect of it, and you'll feel better about like what you're doing, and you'll feel better about yourself. Almost all of my clients, like the first month, they're like, oh my gosh, like I've never felt better. Like I may not physically look that much different, but I feel like 100 times better. I'm not, you know, running out of gas going up the stairs. I'm fitting into my clothes better. Um, just stuff like that. So just getting them to understand that also that you're not going to see results right away. It's like you were talking about earlier, is that everybody wants instant oatmeal. Nobody wants to wait for it to like, nobody wants to wait for the results. Everybody just wants that quick fix. So
Key, how does that conversation work for you? And you when you were working with some of your clients, like how do you educate around that stigma?
How I educate is I tell people that I've lost weight lifting weights because I fucking hate cardio. So when I lost weight, I wasn't doing much cardio. Like I'll run outside now, like when the weather's nice, but I'm definitely not a cardio person. So I tell people that's how I did it. I've read a lot of like research articles and stuff that shows the benefits of lifting for women, and I don't even tell them, I don't really even address their concern for making them bulky, because I feel like I tell them that once they start lifting and if they're getting too bulky, they can just stop. Like you don't have to keep increasing weights. But it doesn't ever get to that point. But I just tell them that just to let them feel in control. Like if you do start to feel like you're getting bulky or looking a certain way, you can just stop. You don't have to increase your weights, but you can still get the same benefit by staying where you're at. But I try to include other benefits like lifting weights or like resistance training helps later down the line when you go through menopause or you are at risk for osteoporosis, things like that that don't directly tie into looking bulky. So when you tie it to something long term like that in your health, I think they buy in automatically. And then when they start to do it, they feel good and they get into it. They forget that they even had that thought in their head anyways. But I try not to really feed into it. I like educate them here and there and other things. So.
Yeah, I feel like getting too deep into it can kind of like create just like a never-ending cycle. So it's good that you said that you try not to get too deep into it, just because once you're in it, you're digging yourself in a rabbit hole. I feel like once you like start discussing that, because I feel like female clients, like they'll never really understand it until they actually go through that process and they like actually like start resistance training. And yeah, one thing I try to implement as well, obviously, you know, if it applies to them, is high intensity cardio, is like, you know, ropes, like fan bikes, like stuff that you like, you're not on a treadmill for like 60 minutes or like 90 minutes, or just stuff that's not like repetitive, like things that can be fun as well. Like people love throwing around the ropes and slamming balls, and like that stuff is fun. Like running on a treadmill for like 60, 90 minutes for your average person can be pretty boring. So
also, I think that I've found success with telling people that strength training, or I guess once you say lifting, you are lifting weights, but like strength training, resistance training, it doesn't have to be weights. Like your body is resistance. Different types of exercise is still resistance. So you can still build muscle like that. So once you break it down like that, I think people buy in and like kind of get over that fear of getting bulky. But a lot of people don't know that like body weight training is still a form of resistance training. So educating on things outside of that will lead them to buying in on the entire aspect of strength training.
yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I'll like catch myself saying it. I try not to say lifting weights. I try to say like resistance training, strength training, because of exactly what you just said. Like you don't have to like use weight to do resistance training or strength training. It can all, I mean, you can do body weight stuff and be perfectly fine. So I try and like catch myself when I say lifting weights, but sometimes I'll just slip up. So I try not to use it in that term. But
it's funny that you say that, because I was thinking like maybe I shouldn't like say the word lifting, but I want women to lift, and whether that is like body weight or anything. So I purposely use that word, and I'm kind of getting in my head about it. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but I purposely do that because women and lift in the same sentence is still not as like intuitive that people would think in 2022. So my whole goal is to get women to lift, whether that is actually lifting weights, but I see them as being like synonymous. So it's funny that like we just view it oppositely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fairman, do you have any female clients at the moment?
Patients, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like personal trainer. I think instantly clients, not patients.
Yeah.
Do are you majority female or kind of even?
Right now, a lot of older females.
Yeah. What are some things that you notice about training your patients, and just like some advantages, disadvantages?
One, I think it's getting them to believe that they should put weight in their hand once they've mastered a movement. I think a lot of people see the weights and they get scared of it. But I'm like, we've been working towards this. Like, I'm not just putting you under this because I think you're not ready for it. If I didn't think you could do it, I wouldn't give it to you. But we've also worked up to this point where you're ready for it. Now, a lot of things we're doing are getting easy. You're not as irritable anymore. And now we talk about trying to go up and down the stairs without knee pain. So we got to be able to expose you to that kind of demands and put some extra load on you to make sure that you can tolerate that. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest thing. And I think in my like when I first meet somebody, it's more about getting them to trust me as their healthcare provider. I'm the only male therapist in my clinic right now, so
Oh, wow.
I take a lot of extra time just making sure that they're comfortable, making sure that I get to know them, kind of like what you talked about at the beginning. I don't want them to be uncomfortable. We have another tech who's a male, but majority of our staff is female. So I want to make sure that they're comfortable with me. I do things a little differently than how some of my other coworkers do it, and I don't want them to be uncomfortable because we're doing things a little differently than what the other people are doing. So I try and take a lot of time early on to make sure that all their questions are answered, that they feel comfortable with the plan moving forward, and that they know that what the plan is. So that's a lot of the experience so far.
Nice. It's good that you mentioned in the beginning talking about like putting weight in their hands and like getting them to try stuff that they wouldn't do normally.
Hmm.
And we were talking about earlier about not pushing your clients too hard or clients' patients too hard, but at the same time, like you don't want to like not give them something to, try, or like you want to be able to push your clients slash patients. It's just a matter of like finding that happy medium. I felt like in the beginning of my journey, I would either, like I said, I would push them too hard or I wouldn't push them hard enough because I was just second guessing myself. But now I've like built that comfort within myself and like that confidence within myself that like I mean, at some point you're going to have to push your clients to do something that they're not accustomed to, because that's all about like, that's how you progress. But
Hmm.
it's just a matter of just, at the end of the day, it just comes down to confidence in your work.
Hmm. I think that's also like some of the like continuing education courses, like key with like blueprints or something like that, and building frameworks and criteria of, all right, you've passed all these checkpoints of like body weight movements, certain rep ranges that I want you to hit. The form looks good. All right, so we got to progress this, and you run out of at one point you're gonna run out of body weight stuff to do, and
Yeah.
how else can you increase the external load? You got to put another like some weight in their hands, but you've gradually built up to that point. It wasn't from first visit to second visit. I'm throwing 50 pound goblet squat in your hands and you've never done it before. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's about getting people to understand the long game and understanding, trying to relate it back to this is going to help you do, even if their intent was to get out of low back pain, but their low back pain is preventing them from going on a walk every day. It's preventing them from bending down and picking up groceries from the floor. It's preventing them from playing with their grandkids, or they don't want to fall because they're scared they don't have the strength to get up. Like it's trying to relate it all back to that. And that's what I try and take a lot of time to teach early on.
Yeah. It's funny that you mention, like the majority, all of my clients, like I'm rarely training like an athlete or like somebody who's specialized in a certain like sport or whatever, but being able to just like give your clients like functional movements and stuff like will help them for like daily activities. I try and like base my programs slash like my workouts for my clients based off of like movements that they would do on a daily basis, because 90%, as a personal trainer, 90% of the people that you train are just going to be like your average human being. Because you're not, I mean, if you're training athletes and stuff, then you're usually not a personal, you're usually like a strength and conditioning coach. So just like being able to like implement stuff that people do on like a daily basis is huge. And that's usually what I focus on, is like stuff that you just do on a daily basis without even thinking. So
I think it depends also on the person you're training, because yeah, the people you train may not be athletes, but then you do have those like day-to-day people who want to be trained like an athlete. So that
yeah,
all goes back to knowing your client, having a relationship with them, and being able to push them in that way. So just being able to like, read them. So I think that's the beauty of like personal training people.
Yeah, and fair, I mean, the way I train Fairman, I kind of train him like an athlete. I implement a lot of stuff that athletes would do, and just because I know his body can take that, and I know that like he has that background. But the majority of my clients like are just like your average, like 9 to 5, like human being. Like they work, they wake up, they go to work, and they come back home, and that's that. That's just a routine. So I try and just like build programs and like workouts off of functionality and not just like giving them like what looks cool. And that's another problem that I see like in the health and fitness industry, is just like giving your clients like the newest and coolest thing, and just it has no like application to what they do on a daily basis. I fell victim to that when I first started. I think, for example, the Bosu ball, it's great for like balance purposes, but it's like, to me, one of the most useless modalities in our industry. I absolutely cannot stand it. And I've seen so many trainers like just put their clients on like a Bosu ball and like have them do all this like fancy core stuff. And it's just, why? Like, what's the point of that? So
I was just about to say that I hate seeing that. Like, especially like, I understand if you're doing like, I don't see why you would do that in like just training a regular day-to-day person anyways, but I understand if you were doing it without a weight or anything, but people really load up their clients on a Bosu ball. Like, why are you doing that? Like, you want to fill out paperwork or something? Like, why are you doing that? I don't get it. It pisses me off.
Key, have you ever seen somebody do a back squat on a Bosu ball? Like
Yes, on Instagram.
Oh man. Oh.
It's funny that you say that because I genuinely despise that. But
It's
whatever.
It's painful to watch. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like you can only do so much. You can tell them that, and you also don't want to be that person that just like walks up to people and like, hey, you're doing this wrong, or that's not like, you're not supposed to be doing that. But I mean, it's some people just have to learn the hard way. So
that stuff sells. That sells. So
oh my
never keep
God.
doing it.
Oh man.
No, but really, I've been seeing this post going around a lot, and it basically said like boring stuff in the gym is what gets you results, not like the cool stuff you see. But if you notice, the people that are like viral on Instagram, they're not doing like regular fundamental stuff. They're doing like a lot of combo movements that target like strength, endurance, and power all in the same movement. You don't make progress like that. You don't get results like that. But that's what sells. So it's hard to be like, do I want to do something that's going to get me followers and go viral, or am I going to stick to what I know works?
There's a difference. You have to be able to separate that. You have to be able to separate like, okay, these people are doing this because they're trying to get followers and like clicks and views, and which is fine. Like I totally understand why, and like, but their purpose is different. Everybody's purpose is, and everybody's path is different. So if that's your path, then so be it. Like, do what you got to do. But for me, I'm trying to build, like I said, longevity with my clients, sustainability, just provide like functionality. Having them do back squats on a Bosu ball is not going to do that. So it's all about just like realizing what your purpose is, and like what the vision is, and like what you're trying to accomplish. So because like if it's for views and like follows and then sure, I get it, but that's not the goal here, for me at least.
Then it also comes back to the consumer, and they have to do some research on what they want out of what they're seeing. Like, you have to question what you see and ask yourself why the person is doing this. Is it for the flex, or is there a specific reason why they're doing this? Or like, I think we as consumers also have to do a better job of questioning things and making sure where information is coming from. So
Yeah, absolutely.
But I have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned selling a little bit and some of your consultations. Has there been, I know you're still early into the having your own business. Has there been a couple of moments where you've had to say no to a potential client just because you know it wasn't a good fit? Or do you feel like you've gotten mostly the people that you want to work with in your consultations?
Um, Kinda. I've never had to say no in the consultation process, but I've had to like quote unquote fire clients, a couple of them, because what people don't realize as a personal trainer, like I think I mentioned it earlier, it's a lot of work. It's not just like, I'm sure you understand this being a physical therapist, and like it's a lot more than just like giving you a workout and having and watching you go through it. There's stuff that you got to do your research, like I said, and you honestly, like I probably do like at least like an hour or two of work from home after I'm done. Um, so I guess like I've had to fire clients because like I don't feel like valued, and like I don't feel like my time is valued, and especially like when people like no call no show, like that's a given for me. Like there's a certain point, like if you no call no show me like once or twice, like then I'm very strict about that. So obviously like you want to be flexible and like things happen, but like I've had a couple people in my journey that like kind of like don't value my time, and you just got to be able to like cut ties with that person and realize that yes, like it's unfortunate, and you obviously as a personal trainer you want to be able to help everybody and anybody, but if they're not willing to help themselves, you have to be able to like separate that. And it's at the end of the day, it is a business, and if it's not helping your business, then you have to cut ties. So it is unfortunate. I hate to do it, but it's just like it works out for both parties.
But especially when your name is behind the brand, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you allow people to cancel on you all the time and not do what they're supposed to do, then it comes back on you at the end of the day because you're the one that built the brand. It's your name on it. People aren't gonna blame the client. It's gonna be on you, and that comes back to what they're gonna say about you as a trainer. So especially when your name is on something, like you want to make sure that the culture you're creating is on point, the message that you're trying to send out there is on point, and you're one on one right now, so it's all on you. So I think it's a huge thing of making sure that people don't come in and mess up your culture and what you're trying to build.
Yeah, there's been a couple times also. This is more so like earlier on when I was working for a box gym. Um, I would go through the consultation process and I'd ask them like what their goals are. And they'd be like, I want to lose 40 pounds in 2 months. And it's like, I have to fight it. And like, there's been times where I'm like, I might just have to give you to another person because I cannot do that for you. But I've bit the bullet and I'm like, okay, like, how about we cut that down to maybe like 10 pounds in 2 months? Because like, I feel like like clients also have the skewed connotation to like how weight loss should be dealt with and like how fast it should be. Yeah, if you're 40 pounds in 2 months, you're doing it in a very unhealthy way. Um, and I mean, you can do it. It's possible. I've seen it, but that is not like I preach. It's not longevity, and you're not playing the long game. It's a very short fix. So, and that's like I said earlier. Everybody wants instant oatmeal, so they just like go after like the quickest way, and like they go after all these fad diets and all these like fasting diets and all that, and it's yeah, it's pretty frustrating. But I guess it goes back to like trusting your work and like trusting your knowledge and like trying to get your clients to understand that you have like a good amount of knowledge and a good amount of like know all. So
I think that comes down to just educating people though. And once you lay that foundation up front And like, say you was working with that client or about to work with that client, wanted to lose 40 pounds in 2 months, and you tell them, like, break it down, like, if you do that, you're likely to gain it back, and show them the statistics and stuff like that, and they're still not buying into it. Since you have your own business, you don't have to work with that person. And if you're coming from like an abundance mindset and not doing things out of desperation, like, you'll just get better clients. And then that's the beauty of having your own business, because if you were in a big box gym, you probably would have to work with them. But now that you're on your own, you could just be like, I don't think we're a good fit, and you can be true to your mission.
That's another beauty of owning my own business, is being able to just like weed out like who I want to work with and who I don't want to work with. And it's nothing personal. Like and that's what I tell that, if I do have to be like, hey, like, I don't think this is a good fit, I make sure that they know that it's not personal. It has nothing to do with like what they do on the outside of my gym or whatever. But yeah, I also feel like people they pay too much attention to like the number on the scale in terms of like weight, and not like I said earlier, like how they feel in their clothes, or like how their clothes are fitting, or how they feel going up a flight of stairs, or, I mean, with that comes with time. Like, you're going to lose weight on the scale, like, over time, but you're not, I mean, like I said, you're not going to see physical results for a pretty long time. So it's all just a process, and just getting them to understand that.
So you talked about it being like a long game a little bit. What does the long game look like for you? What does the future of Moving with Jerry look like for you?
In terms of like my business,
Your business, yourself?
I try to, I'm not really one of these people that like try to like look super far ahead. However, I do, I have like a little bit of a rough draft plan on like what, my next year looks like, or like my next 5 years. I would like to, like, within the next year, start doing like group classes in my studio, and then maybe in like the next 5, I would like to own my own facility at some point, and build like I don't know if I want to do that here. I don't know if I want to do that in the States. Part of me like wants to build something here, just because like this is home for me, and like, even if I don't live here, and like, I would like to like build something in Anchorage, just because, like I said, it's home. And I want to be able to leave something here, like, even when I'm long gone, and I want to be able to leave something that's like in my name, and like, I want people to remember that, hey, like, Jerry started this, and like, this is his operation, even when like I'm long gone. Just like kind of like leaving a legacy almost. It's like a really cliche saying, but I mean, I believe in that. Like, what you do on this, like, you leave a legacy you want to leave a legacy on this earth. And like, that's like what I want to leave on this earth, is like my own facility, and like being able to keep it running for long, long years ahead.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. What would you say is 2 to 3 things you would want listeners to take away from this conversation today?
Starting your own business is scary, but it's so worth it. And I think like the bigger picture in that is just like trusting yourself and taking risks. If you're not taking risks, you're not like going against the grain, I feel like a lot of people are going to be unfulfilled and just like questioning, like, did I do enough? Or kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, like, you're going to get in this mindset that, you're not doing enough, or you're doing too much, or it's always going to be uncertain. So I feel like taking risks and like believing in yourself, and trusting the work, trusting your knowledge. Um, that's a huge thing that I want people to take away. And also just like personal trainers, physical therapists, like whatever you do, just have fun with your job. Like, a lot of people in society nowadays, like, I hear like a lot of my friends, like, oh, like, I hate my job, and like, it's just so, I don't want to go to work. It's like, once you're able to find that job that you just like love going to. And there's parts of it that, you know, aren't the greatest, but like if you find a job or a passion that you like love doing or going to on a day-to-day basis, you've made it. Like that's my like, mama, I've made it type of moment. It's like finding that job that I like go to work and I love every single moment of it. So I think those are like the two big things that you could probably take away from this podcast.
Y'all heard the man. Go have fun with your job. Hold yourself accountable. Maya, appreciate you coming on the pod. This is a lot of fun. I'm sure we're gonna have to bring it back again as like a update episode in the next couple months and see where you're at what you're doing, what you're up to. But really appreciate you taking the time out of your Saturday to come join us on the pod today.
No problem, man. I appreciate y'all having me. And Key, it was nice meeting you kind of formally over Zoom, but yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, nice meeting you too. I think our businesses have a lot in common, so I'm definitely gonna reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
Okay.
We'll catch y'all on the next episode of the Key Man Audio Experience.
Peace.
Take care, y'all.